That always helps as well, doesn't it? You are a proud Welshman, as if you joined in at 5 to 7 this evening, you would have found out.
Yeah.
Having grown up in two of the most beautiful parts of Wales, Esk and the Brecon Beacon,
Yeah.
you entered the world of work as an apprentice electrician for the MOD. Was it the MOD?
Yeah.
Ministry of Defence at the Royal Ordnance Factory at Glascoed near Esk.
Yeah.
So, what made you choose that career then?
I grew up in, as you say, in the Brecon Beacons in Talabont and Esk, and an uncle of mine was a TV repair guy and electrical guy, and that fascinated me. It still does actually, and it was, you know, if you'd asked me age 9 or 10, what did you want to be? I probably would have said electrician. I went to Brecon Grammar School, and then partway through that we moved. And I went to Abergavenny, to King Henry Grammar School. And I wasn't really in a place, I got a few O-levels. I got 9 O-levels, I think. And they were all on the technical end. But I wasn't really ready for A-levels. And I wasn't really ready for university. I was, a shy teenager, shall we say. And I applied, as did lots of my contemporaries, for all of the apprenticeships that were going. And I actually got my job offers from ICI Fibres and Royal Ordnance on the same day, and they were both exactly the same distance from my front door, about 4 miles or 5 miles. And it wasn't quite a toss-up, but it was nearly a toss-up. So I could just as easily have gone to ICI Fibres as to Glascoed. And
you ended up at the Ministry of Defence.
I did, and I was there for 4 years as an apprentice, and subsequently 4 years as a fully qualified electrician, you know, doing factory maintenance and making sure things whizzed when they were supposed to whiz and didn't fizz when they weren't supposed to fizz and stuff like that, you know.
And didn't go bang when they weren't supposed to go bang.
That was more important than you might imagine, actually. There's this very serious element to that. And we did have one or two moments where people went pale and said, "Oh shit, I'm so glad you did that." Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm sure you will. Yeah.
Really, really, really. I did have one of those, and somebody was going to do some work, and I said, "You can't go in there. It's not they haven't got the right stuff." And he went pale and said, "God, I'd have blown myself up if I'd ignored you." Yeah.
There's a pun to be had there, isn't it? Especially on the Ministry of Defence land as well. So,
yeah, there is.
Yeah. says a woman who comes from a strong military family.
It's a silly thing, but you have to know that the stuff that's made is safe. It has to be safe for our troops to handle. It has to be safe for people to transport, you know.
Transport's a big thing, isn't it? Because of the logistics of moving it all around and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then all those people who have to do things like strap it underneath aircraft and things, you know, they've got to be quite confident they're not going to get killed just doing their normal job. So,
well, the Ministry of Defence get quite upset when one of their elements has blown up a bit, because they kind of stand there and go, "You do realise that's £65 million of kit you've just got rid of for me? Thank you very much."
Yeah, it's not cheap. None of it's cheap. No.
So, what made you go from the wonderful world of electrician to a world of sales?
Right. So there's a few little things in the way. By the time I was 24, so I was fully qualified electrician working in the factory. Being Ministry of Defence, it was clocking in and it was behind a secure fence. So every day you'd go and get locked in and then get let out again, which was beginning to wear desperately thin. At the same time, I was still studying for my HNC electrical engineering in Newport. And alongside me, some of my fellows were working for Ferranti Computer Systems, which had come to Cwmbran to set up. And I was beginning to hear all the stories, and bear in mind 1980 was well pre-PCs and things, about all these wonderful computers that were in ICI and all the televisions which controlled things. And my curiosity, and that's really important, my curiosity was just driving me insane. So I applied and got accepted to go and work at Ferranti. In 1980, I took £1,000 a year pay cut in 1980, which was about 25%, 20%.
Yeah, it's a lot of money then. I can just about remember that.
I was married a year with a mortgage, and people said, how much? What are you doing? You are nuts. You are a crazy person. But I went anyway. And that's another thing which is important in this as far as sales is concerned. And I joined Ferranti, where I was an in-house support engineer. That's what I learned about the equipment and learned about how that worked. Strangely, or perhaps not strangely, most of what Ferranti made was for sale to the MOD.
Right.
Okay, so there's that MOD link coming.
Yes, there is. You have a very strong link with the MOD because you then the majority of your sales career was in the public sector. So you sold to the Cabinet Office, the Chancellery's Department.
I did.
GCHQ, MOD, yep. Department for Work and Pensions, Department for Transport, Wales Ambulance Service, Wiltshire Council, to name but a few.
I did.
Right. So talk us through a typical day, because when I spoke to you a week or so ago, you were telling me that one of the contracts that you handled was a 200K a month contract.
Yeah.
Wow. That's mind blowing from a sales perspective. Yeah, obviously you had a sales team, but then tell us a little bit about the logistical.
I mean, firstly, you don't get there instantly. They don't just drop you into that scenario and say, go and do it. You do grow into it. And it is like ritual torture, I have to say. The thing about all good salespeople is that most of them know that most days they will fail, except on the days that you don't fail, it's really brilliant. So you have a lot of days where you haven't done enough today, you haven't done enough today, you haven't done enough today. But the days that you do make it are really spectacular. My target was typically 20 million annually. And of course, you have teams, like you say, so it's your job not to conduct every single sale independently, but to support all the resellers, all the people that work on your behalf, all the techies, all the customers out there, and to be a figurehead to some extent. But I was responsible for every single sale, in that if something had a query attached to it, whether that was about a technical configuration or about a price or about terms and conditions or about a customer relationship or whatever it was my personal responsibility to see that was resolved carefully. So my job was more about having great relationships with the customers at the top of the organizations. So a typical day would be 8 a.m. start, always a conversation with my manager about, first of all, who you're going to see today and what you're going to talk about. Secondly, what, if anything, is expected to close today? What orders are we going to get today? What's going to be on the system? Is there anything on the system which has outstanding activities attached to it? Like, do we need a signature? Do we need an approval? Do we need to send a letter? All of those things. So that would be typically the first hour of the day. The second thing you would do is update the CRM system. And I'm saying to people, sales process, sales process, sales process, sales process. When you have numbers that big, if you don't just stick with the process, you lose track. You lose track in minutes. And it's just a good habit. It's just a good habit to know who you've been talking to, what you've been talking about, and what their expectations are, and then to record it somewhere, because somebody else may need to come and do some subsequent actions on your behalf. If it's on the CRM system, they can see it if you're on holiday. They know when the delivery is expected. They know what the configurations are. They know who the customer is. So lots of this it's a bit like a hamster wheel or a mill, a grindstone. It is about being consistent, and it's about doing the same things, and it's about sticking very closely to doing what you say. If you make a commitment, make sure that it's done.
Yeah, deliver on it.
Yeah, and if it's somebody else's job to do it, number one, it's always my job to make sure that they agree to do it. It's always my job to make sure that they've got the resources to do it. And it's always my job to make sure that they are in the process of doing it. So part of the day's conversation would always be about, what have we been doing today? How's it going? What are the problems? Do I need to, this constant round? And it was usually quite pleasant. I mean, interesting in some ways as well. Interesting, and as long as you didn't let it get you down, as long as you didn't get bogged down by it. The sheer volume would bog you down if you weren't careful.
I've got a client today, and I actually, because the team aren't making sales, and the leader of the company's like, I need you to start making some sales. So we just reframed it and said, like, oh, well, we give you permission to get 20 no's next week. So and you have to come and tell me how many no's you've got, and you can't stop until you've got to 20 no's.
Yeah.
They all thought that was hilarious, because I was like, I said, the half the problem with sales is that majority of people go in with an expectation, and then realistic expectation of what they want out of the other person. And then the process starts to break down quite quickly at that point, because they're not listening, and they are yada, 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 you need this, you need this, you need this. And the client's at that point gone, no, I don't actually, I just need you to leave. So yeah.
The killer question, if you're trying to sell something to somebody, is if they don't buy this from me, is something bad going to happen? The so what question.
Yeah.
So they don't buy it, so they just keep on what they're doing. If it hurts them in some way, it makes them slower to respond. It makes them look stupid. It means they miss fulfilling a commitment that they've made publicly. Then you've got a much better chance of prosecuting a sale. And you just have to make sure that what you offer lines up with what they're trying to do. Because just saying, buy my stuff, this is great. I've got great stuff. Look at my stuff. It's fab. And people say, well, thanks, that's very nice, but not today, thank you.
Not today, thank you very much.
So it is about this. It is about listening, and sometimes it's about interpreting as well, because all customers have their own buzzwords and common language.
Sorry, let me just go on. Yeah, they do have their own buzzwords, especially at that level, because I did a stint at BT. And it took me about 6 weeks to get my head around all the different acronyms, because the whole conversation would just be the ACG connects to the GCB, and we need a TOB over there, and I'd be like,
what?
Yeah. I actually made a cheat sheet of all the acronyms, so that when I was sitting in a meeting, I understood what everybody was talking about, because I was surrounded by 20 men, all it was just, and I said to them, are you trying to trick me? It's like, this is no. I said, because I can keep up with this. I can play this bullshit bingo game. Don't worry about it.
I stopped a meeting once in the Ministry of Defence, and I asked actually what the acronym meant, and everybody looked puzzled and said, what? Oh shit. Anyway, we had a coffee break, and the guy went off and looked it up and came back scratching his own head and said, it's actually an acronym of acronyms. It was a nested acronym. So each letter was the first initial of an acronym of its own. So we had 4 acronyms built into so they were talking about this thing as though it was a single entity. And actually what it was 3 or 4 different projects, and how they all came together and interacted. And they all went away shaking their heads, because nobody had ever asked them the question before. They just.
I did like it at the end of the 80s, when a lot of the big organisations started to clamp down on the use of acronyms, especially in sales and marketing meetings, and people had to start communicating properly with each other. that was an interesting time as well. Like, not that I look old enough to be like working in the 80s, but I did. So what would you say is your biggest achievement then?
In sales, do you mean?
Yes.
In a way, I wouldn't particularly pick one out, but making it, I think, actually making it work. Let me tell you one idea I was particularly proud of. One of my customers, this is the 250K a month customer, was the Defence Research Agency, and they are all over the place. And independently, I responded to an advertisement in the MOD bulletin, which is like the bulletin of the European Journal, but just for UK contractors at the time. And I won a piece of work which was about delivering PCs, servers, and software into army bases for the security service. So it was like a booking in system. If you had a visitor, they would book in and you knew they were coming, you knew what rank they were, you knew what security clearance they had and who they were booked in to see. And we had to deliver this to all the UK Army bases, and then some in Greece, in Akrotiri, some in Germany. And contrary to popular belief, big companies, although they have a lot of good techies, they don't have a bus full just sitting at reception waiting to go. And they certainly don't have them with security clearance up to there. Anyway, I'd been getting close to my customer and realized that they were in the process of becoming, or at least their technology department was becoming a trading agency. And they had lots of ex-services personnel working on the team, doing technical installations, installing the stuff that I was selling to them. So I had this conversation about, would they be interested in coming on board as my contractor to deliver this stuff to the army? So me and my project manager kept control of ordering equipment, of scheduling, and all the documentation. But these guys absolutely loved it, because in the first instance, this was a real sign to them that somebody else trusted them, and that a big sign for their bosses and their employers that they were to be trusted delivering projects and service business to agencies outside of their own gates. For me, the advantage was that they were all security cleared right up to their eyebrows. They knew who to salute. They knew who to ring up before they went. They knew what they could and should do, and they knew what they should not do. And it absolutely worked a dream. But all the people in my company thought I was a crazy person. They absolutely thought I was screaming mental. You've done what? You're hiring your customer to be your contractor, and it really was a difficult few conversations about that.
It sounds like a win-win though, doesn't it? Because you needed the security clearance and the understanding of how because it's a different culture, the MOD, and it's you drop the wrong people in and you can upset some very high-ranking people very quickly.
The colonel in charge shook my hand at the end and he said, "It's the best project we've ever had." And the headline £1 million contract then became £1.5 million, because of all the additional work that came from it. And as you say, it was just a success by everybody's estimation. So perhaps that's the proudest one, because it was the most off the wall. It was the most strange and odd. It was also one from an advertisement without any previous relationships. So when people say you have to have previous relationships, not necessarily so. You can go for these things which are in catalogs and journals, and you can win.
Yeah, it's just having the ability to pick up the phone and start speaking to them to begin with, isn't it?
Exactly that, yeah.
Especially in today's day and age where everybody hides behind emails and then wonders why nobody gets back to them.
Please talk to somebody, yeah?
Yes, pick up the phone and speak. So, if I just walked into a 4M meeting, because that's what you would normally be doing, you'd be standing there drinking your coffee, what would you say to me as a new on the block person into networking? What would you say how important selling and the sales process is to an SME?
If you don't sell, you don't do anything. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter how you sell, it doesn't matter what method you choose to sell, but you have to sell. You need the order, you need to deliver a service or revenue, because otherwise there is no money. Everything else is secondary. Every other activity in the company is secondary. The really big companies know it well. If you talk to IBM or Oracle or any of the big companies and ask who the highest paid part of the sales force is, it's the sales force, and it's highest paid by a huge margin. But it's also the cheapest part, because if those salespeople are busy and effective, what they turn in is vastly exceeds any costs that's associated with them.
Yeah, it's
So
not like the flaming marketing department that I always worked in, and the finance director was going, "How much you're costing us? How much each month?" Yeah,
people find it very difficult to understand.
they
And
do.
However, if you turn sales off, they will find it very difficult to understand where their jobs have gone. You know, and the relationship between sales and revenue is a very, very quick one. You know, it starts to fall away instantly. You have somebody leave a key account, and big companies won't leave a key account unattended for a second, because it's it's too difficult to think about.
Most people, especially in the SME world, think that sales and marketing is the same thing. And what I see, and me and Steve talk about this quite a lot when we get together over coffee, is what I see is I see an incredible amount of marketing activity, you know, heart-wrenching amount of marketing activity, which not necessarily is the right marketing activity, but no sales going on. You know, I say to people, where's your call to action? How do people get in touch with you? When do you call them? Oh, I've emailed them. Yeah, but why don't you just like pick up the phone and speak? I'm not doing that.
Explore that email thing with you for a minute. I have this conversation not quite every week, but very frequently. Oh, did you see my email? I don't know. Oh, I sent you one. Did you? Oh, yeah. I had a read receipt. Oh, I must have read it then. Yeah. Did I did I agree with what you said? Well, I don't know. Have I agreed to take any action? Are you expecting me to do anything? Did you ask me to do anything? And the answer to all of those things is usually not really. You know, because the act of sending an email is not communication. The act of sending an email is just a trigger to expect a conversation. It's a trigger to engage somebody, or quite reasonably to confirm the conversation that you've had. Thanks for talking to me today. On Wednesday, I will, and on Thursday, you should receive this. I will call you on Friday to confirm that this has all happened. You know, anybody that's technical will understand the communications protocols in electronic signaling. And the machine doesn't just launch a message and assume it's arrived.
Yes, very true. Yeah, very true.
It launches a message when it's clear to send, you know, and then it gets a message back from the corresponding machine to say that it's received, or that there's a parity error, or that something has gone wrong. So there's this constant checking that, number one, the message is expected. So just launching an email about something unexpected that the customer isn't prepared for is next to useless. And then not checking that it's been received and understood, and that action has been agreed. It just renders it another email in the great big round folder of life, you know.
One of the ones that gets really winds me up is like, do you remember those days when we could like all go networking together in a room, and we'd end up at a business show, and we'd all be talking, and we'd drop our business cards in because there'd be a nice bottle of champagne or a bottle of gin or a jar of chocolates or something, and then the following day I get an email going, it was really nice to talk to you yesterday, here's the information on our company, and I'd be like, you didn't actually say a word to me. Even when I dropped the business card into the glass thing, you didn't even say thank you or acknowledge me in any way, shape or form. And it's like, please do not insult my intelligence by saying, oh, it was really nice to talk to you yesterday. I hope it was great to talk to you and connect with you. No, you didn't do any connection whatsoever. So yeah, that's my tangent. So before we do move into your lovely little tips on how to smash the sales, I always like to throw in a nice interesting fact. So you have a love of bikes, motorbikes.
I do.
And you like to travel around Europe on these motorbikes when you're allowed to. So tell us a little bit about your obsession with your It's a BMW, isn't it? You've got.
I've got a BMW. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 40 years old. I lived near Abergavenny, and Sundays we would go driving out, and there would be 200 or more bikes collecting at the cafe at the bus station.
Yeah.
And I was just fascinated by the colours and the noise and the buzz and this whole thing. And I sort of decided I wanted to go at this for myself. So for my 41st birthday, my wife bought me a training course for the compulsory basic training, which I did in Bristol, which was just one Sunday, and you get your provisional license, if you like, as a car driver. And then I immediately booked onto what's called a direct access course and took a 6-day intensive training course in Bristol and passed my test on Thursday. So I started on Sunday and passed my big boys bike test on Thursday. And then on Saturday, I went and bought a Triumph 1200.
Oh my God.
Which was a big leap. I'm a big chap, but even that was a big leap.
Yeah.
And subsequently, I started I intended to go to Santander on a ferry with a friend and then drive the bikes back to Roscoff and subsequently home. Now that one fell through, but I talked to my neighbour about would he like to come on the next trip, and he leapt at it. That was 15 years ago. And since then, we've had 16, I think, trips. That's included France, Spain, Germany, Andorra, the coast. We've been to Valencia and Bilbao and to Geneva and to anywhere. We've zigzagged around Spain. I've got wet in more places than you can imagine because when it rains in Spain, oh my gosh, does it rain in Spain? Yeah, it absolutely.
like the rain in Cornwall.
It started to rain just as we left Barcelona. So I've driven my bike through Barcelona. It's not it's not intimidating at all. But the rain, we got to our night stop in a place called Huesca, which is right in the middle of Green Spain, which is beautiful, by the way. If you get to Green Spain, it's lovely. And my roommate, Dave, sat on the edge of the bath and took his boots off and emptied his boots into the bath. And needless to say, he exchanged a few syllables with me about the rain.
About how wet he was.
Yeah, we spent his 60th birthday sheltering from the rain, eating a Mars bar in the Perspex cover of a car wash because so it's been very exciting. But we went to the First World War sites, to Ypres and to the trenches. As a group of blokes, we've been to Arromanches and places like that, and to the Somme, and we've done some historic tours, and then across to Caen, where the Sword Beach and so forth are.
Yeah, I'm not jealous at all.
And like I say, down through Andorra. Andorra is horrible when there's no snow. These hotels with ski lifts, they're all sort of built on a pile of black rubble when you see them without snow, but I'm sure they look beautiful in the winter. Along the coast, we did the Route Napoleon one year, which is along, from Andorra down to Perpignan and along the Mediterranean coast, and you take a big sort of U-turn up through into France and Germany and in and out of Switzerland. So we went to Geneva. That was a big long trip.
Is that named after? Is that one of the marching routes of Napoleon? Then back in. Right. Yes, okay. See, typical blonde person. Yeah, I always I've been a pillion rider on the back of a bike, but I remember watching that program with Billy Connolly where he did Route 66 on the back of a Harvey. And I was thinking to myself, you jammy so-and-so, you're getting flaming paid to do that.
Those weren't the words you used to think about it.
Yes, I was see, like, I'm watching my language. For the people who know me, I'm really watching my language this evening. So you've had a fascinating career in selling, well, more money. You've sold more. You've done more in sales in a month than I've earned in 2 years. Some years, and you've got some big achievements. And obviously, you've been cycling around Spain with the boys, pretending that you were kids again. And then I can't remember the exact year that you went self-employed and you started SJ Sales App.
I think that probably was 2015.
That's probably when we first met. I felt my son had just walked in behind me. So that's probably rough around the time that we first met. And you obviously saw a gap in the marketplace to help SMEs with their sales.
There are two things. So the first thing is I took voluntary redundancy and grabbed my pension from Hewlett-Packard after 30 years. And I thought, if I stay here, the pressure is going to kill me, at some point, because there is the point is there's always somebody on your shoulder asking for more. That was great, Steve, but when's the next one coming in? That's a constant pressure. And after 30 years, I probably had enough of that. So I went out and I got, I did 2 jobs after I left HP. I went to work for a company called Centerprise, which is based in Basingstoke, but with a base here in Wales. And I sold a £5 million PC deal with Dell for them into Wiltshire Council. That was interesting. 5 million quid is a lot of PCs.
That's a lot of PCs.
It's a lot of PCs.
Yeah.
And then I went to work for a company called CSI, which was a venture finance company that was buying what you might call stressed IT companies, not stressed to the point of distress, but they were stressed IT companies, and creating a group which would be bigger and stronger in its own right. And I went to work for them as a contractor for a short while. And that was interesting because they were fragmented. They had bits of spectacular expertise and then huge gaping gaps of things that they didn't have skills or capability in. So that was quite a colourful experience. And then that was our Steve Jones sales consulting. That was as part of that. And nowadays I work with people that I like. So I'm very choosy these days. Because why would I not, or why would I go and do something just for the money when there's plenty of other activity? And I would urge anybody in their own business to think about, do I like this company that I'm working with? Do I see myself aligning with their values and the things that they want to achieve? Because if you don't, then it's going to make for a torrid experience. It's going to be difficult. There will always be rocks in the way. And actually it's not much fun, and you spend too much time at work not to enjoy what you're doing. Now,
life's too short, that's for sure.
Life is too short. That isn't to say it's not going to be hard sometimes, and it's going to be, at 5 o'clock in the morning on the motorway going somewhere that you don't really want to go. That's not what I mean. But if you believe in what you're doing, then you're much more likely to do a really good job at it and be pleased that you're doing with it.
I think that's one of the main driving factors for why people to become self-employed to begin with, don't they? So with that, would you like to actually, just before Steve does tell us how to smash your sales without being pushy and icky, if you want to have a sit down with Steve, the quickest way to get a sit down with Steve when COVID-19 is over is to offer him good coffee and good cake. So if you know good coffee shops and good cake shops, just dangle it in front of him like a child.
I'm not so worried about the cake as long as the coffee's there.
Yeah, it's got to be good coffee. He's not a Starbucks guy. He's definitely a Costa, and
Yeah.
he does like the boutique coffees. And 9 times out of 10, you go to pay, and he ends up paying. What can I say? So, Steve, how to smash your sales without being pushy or icky? How would you advise us to do that then?
So the first thing to remember is that business is for mutual benefit. If you're talking to people who are business people properly, they will respect you, they will listen to you. And as long as you don't take the piss, excuse my language, but as long as you treat them in that manner, you have a right to expect that they treat you back in that manner. Now, you may or may not be able to do any business with them because that's going to depend on the circumstances. But if you just ask them, can I come and talk to you? Can I hear what it is you're doing? And can I tell you about my products and services? As an education, actually, they should respect that, because that will be how they make their business. They make their business by asking people for time from their diary, by asking for, and it's for mutual benefit. You're not going to make a quick buck. You're not going to steal from them or to, for heaven's sake, tell them what they should be doing. You should be doing this.
You need to buy my product now. Look, me buy it now.
Yeah. So that would be my first my first tip, and listen, actually listen and work out what is it that you do that is going to be useful for them. Why will they benefit from working with you? What is it that you do which is going to make them look good? And that's the second point. How do you make your customer look good? Are you going to make them look like the expert that chose a really good partner or a really good supplier? It's a serious point. How do you do that? How do you make your customer feel that they've made a wise choice? Depends on their personality to some extent.
A lot of it's in the listening, though, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And when you leave with that order, and they're thinking about it to themselves, as they've waved you goodbye into the car park, are you going to leave them thinking, that's good, I'm pleased about that? It might only be a fleeting feeling, but you need to leave them with a reassurance that they've trusted you because you're going to take the effort and the trouble and the time, whatever it is you deliver, to make sure it's delivered as well as you can. Now then, coming on from that, so you've won that new piece of business, you've won the trust of the customer, they've given you the order. Ask for the order, by the way. Remember to ask for the order, please do that. And please check who's going to have to sign it. Am I really talking to the person in authority, or do they have to get a signature from a managing director or a finance director or a committee or whatever? When you deliver it and you've done a good job and it works, remember to go back and tell them that, and I mean it. I really mean go back and say, wow, great. I'm so pleased we finished this. That was tough. This wasn't expected. That was difficult. But, we made our best efforts for you. We did as much as we could. And we made sure, with the help of your great teams, you enhanced their teams as well. Haven't we got a great project? Didn't we do well? Now, clearly you want to choose your language a bit more carefully than that, perhaps. But enhance them. This is making them feel good. Make them feel that the decision they made to go with you has been justified. Make sure that the delivery is more or less what they expected. Make sure that you responded to their needs and their concerns. And then the last thing is, when is the best time to go and see a customer? Well, clearly, it's nice if they've got a budget and a project in mind. However, the best time to go and see them is when there's no money and when there's no project. And you say, well, why the hell is that? Well, there are 2 or 3 reasons for that. Now, number one, they will go away feeling that you've treated them like a human being because you've just gone and talked with them and listened to them and worked out what what is making them tick. Secondly, if you're not doing it, your competitor will be. So you're preventing a vacuum from occurring. You know, the thing about a vacuum is that something will come along and fill it.
Mm.
And then finally, from that, if you establish a good relationship when there's no money, who's the first person they're going to think of when something comes up that they want to talk about? Because that will happen. You know, all companies have a cycle of you spend in quiet periods, you know, so that by the time they've got a budget, and you can talk about next year's projects, you can talk about projects the year after, stick with them when there's no immediate money. Now, I know that's difficult when you're busy and you have stuff to deliver and you have important things to do today, but those people are the ones that will be the orders for tomorrow. Those are the ones that you need to cultivate, you know, depending on your life cycle, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the line. You always need to, on your CRM, you should have a view as to who's 12 months away, in my opinion. Who's going to be the next big thing? Because you need to know, if it comes to fruition, how you're going to cope with it. How are you going to deliver? What resources are you going to have? You know, answer those questions for yourself before you go and talk to the customer. And really, the final thing is, when you have a meeting with someone, know what answer you want before you leave. So before you even set foot in that customer's door, what is it that you want to achieve when you leave that meeting? Can I see you again? Can we meet again? Do you want product information? Do you want a quote? Shall I talk to you in August when you've come back from your holiday? You know, you have to have an objective in your mind, something to ask for as you leave. So when you leave, you know something that you didn't know when you came in.
The number of people who don't have any objective, and then they wonder, well, two things, this is what I see, two things are happening. They are desperate for the sale, so they rush in and don't listen. And they're talking to the person too late to begin with. And the second thing is that they have no objection, and you're trying to sell them something which is too big for them to take on at the moment, and it comes across as being desperate rather than taking the time or the opportunity to position. Sales to me is like children. You know, you have to, if you want your child to do something, you don't just land it on top of them, you lead them nicely towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the two things I mean, and you know that I hate sales. I am right up there. When somebody says pick up the phone, I'm the first one to break out in a sweat.
Let me ask you something. You know, are you wearing a watch?
Yes.
Somebody sold it to you.
I got it's a present.
Somebody sold it to the person who bought it for you. It was sold.
Yeah, it was good marketing, Steve. What can I say?
I see you're wearing clothes. Somebody sold them to you.
Yeah, they did.
You're wearing glasses. Well, you know, that nice optician, Specsavers, or whoever it was, they sold.
Oh, do you know, right? That's a good story. And she's not in my group, so I'm going to tell you this. These glasses that I'm wearing cost me £500. And do you know what she said to me? She said to me, well, she said, what was it? She said, you change your underwear every day, don't you? And I said, yeah. She said, well, when was the last time you changed your glasses? And I suddenly felt really sick because I stood there. I just felt that I was like, oh, I think I'll choose a new pair of glasses. Thank you very much. So now when I go into the opticians, I'm like, I'm not changing my underwear. Do you know how much these cost me?
Yeah. but you know, you take my point that everything you own, the food you ate this morning in some way was sold to you. You know, the marketing, if you buy in Sainsbury's or Aldi, the marketing is what drives the footfall. But the presence of a store, the way the store is presented and how you get to the checkout is the sale. You know, you can't just turn up at some anonymous warehouse and you know, pick through from the boxes. Somebody is selling you that stuff all the way down the line. How helpful is the assistant? That's part of the sales process. You have to make it easy for the customer to buy from you. It has to be the easiest choice that they make. It has to be.
I find every single day I see how difficult companies make it to either contact for a client to contact them, or just just to purchase something off them. They just, some businesses make it incredibly difficult, and then they
Yeah.
wonder why they're not getting any sales through the door. And actually, the the world is changing so fast, and the power is definitely with us as the consumer, or us as a business owner. And if we don't start engaging with our potential clients, actually two things happen. Well, two things I see happening. We're not engaging with our potential clients because we don't see the value in it. We'll wait until they come to us, and which that really does pee me off. And the second one is that they don't actually pick the phone up to their clients already. The number of people I've said to them over the last 18 weeks, when was that? Have you spoken to your clients to see how they are? Like, just call them up and see how they are. Oh, I'm not speaking to my clients, not picking the phone up to them. I'm like, well, how do you feel when you've bought something off somebody and they don't call you up, or like my hairdresser? I'm never going back to my hairdresser ever again, because I'm in 25 years I've been going to him, and he hasn't even had the decency to call me up and tell me that he's reopened again. I've seen it on Facebook.
It's not a human thing to do, is it? I realize, I fully understand that every business needs a website today. But actually that should be for reference. That should be for somebody to follow up in the quiet time after you've left them. Not really as the primary engagement. The primary engagement should be a human one, in my view. And then you can say, right, okay, let me send you the right link to the specific part of our website, not just to the front door. Let me send you to this product or that service or that location. Be a bit more proactive. Take a small step. Small steps are really, really important, and customers appreciate them. They just do.
I heard you speak about 18 months ago, and you gave out a very good acronym
Oh, right.
for a sales structure. And I know it begins with B. B-A, is it BAM?
Yeah, B-A-N-T. Please write this one down. And this is not mine. This came from IBM's business school. And it stands for budget, authority, need, and time. And when you have a conversation with people, just answer those, have that checklist in your mind. Have we got a budget, and is it allocated? Am I speaking to someone who is in a place to make a decision? Do they have the authority? Do they have a need, or is this just a tire kicking and catalog browsing opportunity? If they have a need, something bad will happen if they don't do something with you, something awkward. And then time, when is it going to happen? Now, that's very dependent on some businesses. If you're a bridge construction company, maybe 2 years is a good time. But if you're selling hardware or consumable items, then 2 weeks is a good time period. When is this order likely to happen? So that's budget, authority, need, and time. And I've tested that against any sort of business you can imagine. If you can answer those questions to yourself when you leave a meeting, then you have a good prospect. You've proven to yourself that there's a real possibility.
Because I find that most people don't. I was talking to somebody who we know in Zocket recently, and I say recently, it was Christmas time, and they were telling me how they'd spent 18 months trying to get into this big company into London and they'd ended up having a 20-minute meeting with the person, but they hadn't established who had the authority, and pretty much had wasted the whole 18 months because the person sitting in front of them didn't have the budget authority. And wasn't really interested in speaking to them in any case. So, and they were feeling completely frustrated. And I said, well, I understand that. I said, but don't you feel a little bit stupid for not finding out who had the authority to begin with? He just kind of looked at me and he said,
I would urge you, if you're a sole trader or sole business, get get a buddy, get somebody, you know, a coach if you like, a mentor if you like, not necessarily somebody that you pay for, but somebody that you can speak your ideas out to, somebody to vocalize what you're thinking about, because the majority of time I see people and they realize as they speak to me that that idea doesn't make any sense anymore. You know, what's a good idea in your mind, when you vocalize it, when it's out there, I can see them reaching to try and get the words back sometimes, because they realize that it's not as rational as they thought or hoped it would be. So if you can have somebody, anybody, and I will do that, I'll offer, if you need to talk to somebody about something, I will just ask some tricky questions, but they're not really meant to catch people out. They're just meant to stimulate the thought process, so that you either reject what you're doing or you go and get some more information. The single reason sales fail is because the seller didn't know enough. And again, over 30 years of observing, you know, I even wrote a blog about that, you know, and oh, I thought we were certain to get that, you know, the sales team's out drinking champagne and it's gone to the other party. You know, they get in the next morning expecting orders to arrive, and somebody else is now the winner. And it's always because some piece of critical information was overlooked or missed in some way.
And it's so easy nowadays to do your research on an organisation, you know, and companies will catch you out as well, because they'll be like, well, if you actually looked at our website and do you understand what we do? So yeah, so
even if you're talking to, I don't know whether companies have these structures these days, but even if you're talking to, you know, MD or FD's secretary, if you approach them directly and say, I'm going to make I want to make a presentation to John, Jane, Bill, Jenny, whoever it might be, and I don't want to make a mistake. And you put those people in the position of enhancing the experience that their boss has by giving you some information about their personality, information about what they're interested in, information about what is going to stimulate them, then actually you can then say, you know, thanks very much, and they will, as long as you make your intention clear and transparent. People surrounding the key decision makers will help you. They all will, because it's to their advantage too.
Yeah, true. If you can make them look good, they'll make you look good.
Exactly that.
Yeah, because people tend to say, I'm not making any calls because I can't get past the gatekeeper. And when somebody says that to me, yes, there are certain industries where it is really difficult to get past the gatekeeper, but that's saying that you've not actually engaged in a conversation with the gatekeeper, or what you're just trying to jump past them to get to the boss, and they'll be like, you're not getting past me because you haven't even been said hello to me or said anything nice. Yeah, make friends with me.
Make friends with the gatekeeper. It's not so hard, is it? You know.
No. So basically, what you're saying to us is listen. Yeah. Make sure you're speaking to the person who's got the authority. Go in with no expectations and follow up. Yeah. Make sure you use the BANT structure. Yeah. Budget, authority, need, and time. Yeah. Yes. And just listen. I think the go in with no expectations and speak to them when they don't need us is probably one of the big ones that SMEs don't do. We tend to go in with a knee-jerk reaction
what, you're going to spend an afternoon driving over there to talk about nothing? That seems like such a waste of time. except that you don't know that you're going to talk about nothing. They might just be waiting. For goodness sake, is there not anybody out there that can help me with this problem?
Yeah.
Have we got time for a little anecdote?
Yes, go on. And then we'll do Q&A. So you can all get ready to start asking your questions. Go on.
A 4N member is engaged in creating a business to purchase, renovate, and then let rental properties, but on behalf of their investor.
Yes.
And he was working away and having a good go, and just being busy, and thought he was doing all right. So we had this conversation, and I said, so do you have a business plan for this client? So this is already a client. This is somebody that you know. He said, so what do you mean? And I said, so what do you know about what they want to do next year? What are you going to do for them next year and the year after? And the answer is, oh shit, I hadn't thought of that. So, right, off you go then, and have that meeting. Go and talk to them, because if they're already working with you, they already have a level of trust, and you're not gonna break that by just talking to them. And if they don't want to tell you, then they won't anyway. So I armed him with those, the budget, authority, need, and time things, and just a few simple things. 2 weeks later, he came back and said, oh my God, I just had a meeting with my client. He said, it was the best thing I have ever done. They revealed to him their plans for the next 3 to 5 years. And their objective was to procure 60 properties.
Bloody hell.
And he had no idea. And as far as he was concerned, as long as he was in the driving seat, which he was, that was about 5 years' work. And he had no visibility of it at all. He was absolutely, completely dumbstruck. And that was simply about going and having a business conversation with an existing client. So going without an expectation is not a problem, because everybody has something else that they're thinking about. Everybody has something else that they're doing. Everybody has a plan. And whether it's to grow the business, to sell the business, to expand it, to go international, who knows? Unless you go and have that conversation, you can't know.
No, you can't know. I've got a client who works with third sector, and when lockdown happened, they lost 90% of their work overnight. And so they've been scrambling to get back, but they literally called one of their big clients up last week and just said, how are things? How's it all going? And they've pretty much signed the best part, just under 100K worth of work with them.
That's happened a lot. It's happened to somebody that I'm working with. People are closing marketing departments, and lo and behold, the marketing company that I'm working with have picked that up as contract business. So although it's somebody else's misfortune, which is sad, for them it's great business, because they've now got a new retainer, a new client, and secure work for the next year.
Yes, it is. Well, that whole marketing department's disappearing. That's a whole different conversation at the moment. So, who wants to be first then and ask Mr. Jones a salesy question?
Mr. Jones, I only get called that if I'm in
Mr. Jones. Well, I can't advance. I could call you Stephen and sound like your mother, couldn't I? Stephen, come here.
That's definitely worse. Yeah.
So who would like to ask Mr. Jones a question? You've all got look. They're all got. I know Lisa. Lisa will go on. Lisa. Lisa's always our go-to question person. Bless her.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Steve. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. Firstly, so thank you. Probably for me, I'm in network marketing. I'm with Utility Warehouse.
I know Utility Warehouse. Yeah.
So is that a good thing or bad thing?
I'm a distributor. I'm a very bad one, but I am one.
Are you? Oh, okay. You don't need it now, though. It doesn't sound like
Utility Warehouse is a very good thing. And if you think about that BANT thing, I've actually tested that on Utility Warehouse. How many conversations have you had where they say, that's great, but I just got to go and talk to my partner to see if it's all right?
Yeah, as soon as you said that with the authority, I was like, I do make a habit now of making sure that I set any appointments up with the person who is going to, or what I do get otherwise is like, I'll make the appointment with one person and be like, oh yeah, I can do it. My partner doesn't care. And then you get there, you do everything, they're saving a fortune. They're like, oh, I better just run it past so and so. So I try and make sure if there's 2 people in the house that there's 2 people at the appointment.
So,
Otherwise, you end up going back. Or
you see, the budget and need is a given because everybody pays for utilities and everybody needs utilities. So the B and the N part are absolutely a given in your transactions. But the authority and the time, and how many times have you said, I'll do it after Christmas, I'll do it after, how many times? How many times?
I think for me, it's filling the funnel of getting people to actually, because I think I've been a partner for 4 years now, and at the beginning, that whole not going in with an expectation was really difficult because my background was social work, so this was completely alien to me. And it was kind of like you get that kind of focus on just wanting someone to sign up because you're like, but it's really good and you're going to save money and blah, blah, blah. And it was more about, so I've kind of chilled all of that out now, and it's kind of like I'm giving you an option.
There's a lady who does, she comes onto the Hereford and Gloucester for networking meetings. Anne is her name. And she has been doing MLM and she does Yankee Candle and other things.
Right.
She turns over 3 million on MLM.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of candles.
Yeah, absolutely. So do I think it's a good business model? Yes, it isn't one that I can do because my mind doesn't work that way. But is MLM a valid business model? You bet it's a business model that works, and it works extremely well for some people. So
yeah, I think it's consistency, I think, is the key for us.
Utterly, yeah.
And that's a little bit where my downfall, I suppose, where I've been a bit up and down like that with things. Not that I don't take it seriously, but there's times where I really take it seriously, and then there's times that I'm a bit more, I make the excuses, I don't pick up the phone quite so quickly and things like that.
Well,
and
I think that's human, and that's what I'm saying about getting a mentor, getting a buddy to just, oh, I'm feeling a bit rubbish today. So,
yeah,
thank you for
push you along. It's the accountability, isn't it? It's like saying, right, I'm going to make these phone calls. I've been doing call blasts recently with the rest of the team because everyone's recognised that people have been a bit in a rut and things like that, and that the call blasts really help because we kind of go on a quick Zoom, say, right, this is how many calls we're going to make. We'll meet back in an hour. And it makes me do it because I don't want to either not go back or go back and go like, yeah, I just had a cup of tea and watched this morning because I didn't want to do it. It makes me do it then.
We're all like that. Great question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
We're all at the end of the day, we're all human, and sales doesn't come naturally to 98% of small businesses out there, or big businesses, which is why they have sales teams. But we've said this to Lisa in the past. I find it incredibly insulting if I have given somebody permission to call me and they never follow up with me.
Yeah.
And if they don't listen when I say to them, look, I'm really busy at the moment, I can't speak to you. It's because with my marketing head on, it's not their job to make sure that I get the sale or get through to them. It's my job to make sure that I speak to them when they are ready to speak to me. And I just have to listen to them and go, well, oh, I'm really sorry about that. Can I call you on Tuesday next week? Would that be better? And they'll go, yeah, okay, that's fine. Brilliant.
So we've got a question from David, I think.
Yes, we are. We're going to go to David. Mr. David Davis.
Hi, Steve. Great presentation, great chat. Really enjoyed all of it and related to quite a lot of it. Although I've never been in sales, I've been in marketing business development a lot. But my question is about selling on LinkedIn. Well, in fact, selling is the wrong word to use in LinkedIn because I reckon that the perceived wisdom is you don't sell on LinkedIn, you influence. And by influencing and by proving your credibility and by being there, you get people to connect with you. And the idea is you ask them or they ask you to sell to them, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah. So that's a halfway house with marketing in a way, isn't it? It's about creating demand and making it easy, making your door the most inviting door, the one which says, "Come to me." So LinkedIn is the platform which has the most credibility in that sense.
Yeah.
It's not the biggest, but nobody is going to think you're a fool for being on LinkedIn. You know, everybody is going to have those good quality associations, right or wrong. The attachments to people who appear on LinkedIn and work on LinkedIn are all good ones. So,
and actually, the comment you made about websites, I think that if you work LinkedIn properly, you probably don't even need a website. And I know a couple of people. Have you met, Charmaine, have you met a guy called, oh, this is terrible, Pat Slattery?
Yeah.
He has a one-page website, which basically lists his 10 principles for the work he does, which is basically mentoring, international mentoring, Pat Slattery International. All he has is one page with his 10 principles on it. That's all
you need. You don't need an all singing or dancing. I don't agree that people don't need websites, not in today's day and age, because the website is the new business card. It's
a confirmation, isn't it?
It's a confirmation and a trust element. It's kind of like if you haven't got a website, because actually Primark's brand was damaged really badly at the shutdown of COVID, because they publicly announced that they didn't have a website to sell across, and their retail, for God's sake. It's like, you know, Toys R Us went to the wall because they didn't have they got into the website game too late, and they pushed everything through Amazon and didn't realize that Amazon was a website comparison. And then by the time they got their act together, it was too late for them. They couldn't pull it back. It was too much of a disaster.
So for me, with a bit of subtle language and careful use, LinkedIn is a great place to sell. It's a great marketplace as far as I'm concerned. No, I have no objection to LinkedIn in any.
And because I'm in coaching and mentoring, it actually suits me in some ways. I have this issue with selling by email, which is what a lot of people do these days. You have these email pipelines, and actually I have one of the systems I use is an email pipeline, but it seems so cold and so distant from the client.
I'm not a fan of email.
You are building a relationship.
Email should be used to keep your client warm. It should not be used to close a sales deal.
Again, it's for information and for keeping
information.
But I agree. If you've got LinkedIn as your front door, then I think that's an attractive front door, if I can use that analogy.
No,
it's expected business practice to receive more sales messages on LinkedIn than it would be across the other platforms.
It's not. Sales messages on LinkedIn are really frowned on.
Not direct messages. Sales messages, as in call to actions in your posts.
If you start pitching for sales, you get.
Yeah, but it's illegal as well, because, like as Andrew was telling us last week, it's illegal to send a sales message through the direct message. Yeah. But what I meant is that the majority of the people I see a lot of marketing activity on LinkedIn, but I don't see them asking for the call to action. This is how you buy my stuff. Yeah. This is how you contact me. How you get in touch with me.
Send them to a landing page where there's a really big call for action. Yeah.
Just put your telephone number on and say, call me.
Yeah, well,
make sales by association with people in similar industries. If you were in London and you wanted to buy a guitar, you would go to Denmark Street, where there are 5 or 6 guitar shops. So you're alongside very, very good competitors, and actually your plan is to be attractive to a proportion of those people, because everybody won't want full high end, everybody won't want cheap and cheerful, but some people will want something between those two extremes. And if you're there just waiting for them with good credentials, then some of them will come.
Brilliant.
Oh, great, good question. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Right, and Mr. Brenton, you have a question.
You mean Andrew?
How are you? Yeah, I know it's a bit formal.
Just call me Alistair. And she's on mute now, so we
Hello, Alistair.
can't. Thanks. Hi, Steve. Good presentation as ever. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, how do you sell something that your client might need in future? I'm very much in legal services these days, and pretty much a lot of what I do is going to be useful to other law firms when it pops up. The chances of me phoning as it pops up or just before it pops up are virtually nil. So it's keeping a client primed to reach out.
So the first thing is awareness and education.
Yeah.
So you have to have a program of, it's a marketing program really, but it is about making people aware of the issues which you deal with.
Yeah.
And having them identify with them. Because I find a lot of the time, people have great products and services, but the clients don't identify themselves with those, or they don't identify themselves with the problem which you're seeking to mitigate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to find a way of creative language, I suppose. You know, you have to do a bit of copywriting for yourself, maybe some blogs, and some scenario building.
Yeah.
But also, whilst you might be thinking about specialized products or services, can you be a bit broader? Can you offer other services? Can you have that conversation about what are you doing? What do you need in general? You know, that broader general conversation, that just builds trust in you as an individual. It builds trust that you're not going to just go for the jugular and say, buy my stuff. And you know, attending meetings where those people are, being where your clients are is quite important.
Yeah.
So if they are at events, you need to be at some of those events.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm getting a froggy throat there. So can you sell stuff that's in the future? Excuse me, my camera is beginning to play up now. I'm going to turn my background off.
You're disappearing slowly.
I know, I'm disappearing into San Francisco Bay.
Yes.
Let's do that. That's better. It was to match my shirt. But yes, so you can, because lots of people sell concepts and ideas. You know, insurance. Everybody needs insurance, but it's not a product you can actually buy, is it? You know, you're selling protection against something which you hope won't happen.
To get them to imagine if.
You buy it hoping you'll never use it.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thanks.
Yeah.
Some ideas there.
A good question, and some good copywriting, I think, is what's needed to educate and make people aware of your presence.
Yeah, I'm rubbish at that, so I've already outsourced it. So
a good plan. Yeah, no problem with that. Excellent plan.
All right, cheers, Steve.
Yes.
Thank you, Andrew. Suki, Dr. Suki.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Thank you so much for that information. It was really great information. My question is, you know, when you said about networking and meeting people and going with an open mind, I tend to think, what am I going to end up buying today?
well, you know, let me put it a different way. If you go and browse in a car showroom, or if you go and browse in Marks and Spencer's or whichever your favorite shop is, there is an expectation that you are likely or possibly going to buy something. So when you go to network meetings, you don't go with no interest. And you are kind of waving a flag to say, I'm here.
Sell me.
Yeah, but what you must be doing is be the equal of all those other people. Yeah, you have to match them. You have to be as good as they are. You have to be as enthusiastic about your service or product as they are. And what's the term, Charmaine? a quid pro quo thing, isn't there? There's this thing about reciprocal.
What, the law of reciprocity?
Yeah, reciprocity. Yes.
Yeah, the law of reciprocity. So if somebody does something good for you, you will feel obliged to do something good back for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But don't be afraid to say no. If you don't really need something, don't do it just out of sympathy. You know, oh, poor love. Yeah. Oh, they obviously need some money. And then you've got a house full of stuff that you don't need.
I've ended up doing that. And that's why I'm thinking, oh God, you know, for me, it's like, I'm going to end up buying something that I don't really need, or go for something. So for me, I think perhaps I need to learn to say no.
Well, here's the other, here's the other thing is when you talk to people about whatever you sell in your service, do they really need it? And some people will definitely because that's just true about the whole population. But when it's clear that they don't need you today, then back off. Actually qualify what you're, moderate what you're doing when you're having a conversation with someone. Be listening and responding to what they're telling you in a way that just says, that's really interesting, but I'm actually going off here to see somebody else now. Thanks. It's really, and I know as human beings, that's not always an easy conversation, is it? The sunlight is coming out behind me. Sorry, I'm fading into the fog.
I think it's preparation though, isn't it, Steve? Because it's like, if you know you're going to walk into a business environment, then just the ones that really do get me at business shows, I do have to have a word with myself in the car park before I walk in, because I know I'm walking into a full-on sales environment. And just be mindful of, actually, I don't need X, Y, or Z today. I'm not prepared to. I'll be nice and polite to people, but I'm not there to, I'm not there to really to be sold to. I'm there to have a browse and have a nose, or catch up, see Steve and have a coffee, or bump into David, or meet Andrew, or it's just like
your impervious suit. Yeah, you're invisible. You're invisible. I'm impervious to sales messages. The problem when you do that is if you're not open to people's incoming messages, you're likely not to give good messages out.
Block.
Yeah. So
it works both ways. Yes.
It's both ways. Tough questions.
Thank you.
I am both the easiest person in the world to sell to and the hardest, because if I don't want to purchase, there's not a chance. If I do want to purchase, then I will have done my research first, and I'll know what I want to buy, and I'll know what I want to pay, and I know what sort of quality and response I want. So good question.
I don't know if the other women will agree with this statement, but I have to make sure that I'm not emotional before I walk into a place, because if I am emotional, I can be swayed and persuaded, and before I know it, I'm buying something, and which my gut is my head's going, don't do it, but the emotional part of me is like, oh my God, I just need that now.
Stuff that you're going to think later when you see it on the shelf.
It's just that. So from a woman's point of view, sometimes I think we just have to emotionally check ourselves at the door, so to speak, if that makes any sense.
Toughen up a bit.
I think you're right. It's probably at times when I felt a bit vulnerable already, is that I have ended up, buying something that I didn't even really need. So, but some people are very pushy as well. I'm going to say that. Sometimes people can be very pushy.
I am. If somebody's pushy, I am. The more pushy they are, the more resistant I become. So you need to match their pushiness with resistance. And you just say, why are they being so pushy? It's desperation, as far as I'm concerned.
Desperation, yes, that's right. There you
go.
No, thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suki. Right, Mr. Kevin Davis.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Hiya.
Thanks, Steve. That's really good, and it's great to have somebody there who's like talk the talk, walk the walk, and really knows what he's talking about. It's really insightful. Inside the whole sales process, there's lots of methodologies out there. I'm sure you've come across.
There certainly are, yeah.
Is there anything that you've sort of latched onto or picked up which is really effective?
Yeah, there are a few things. There are some. So the best book ever is the Dale Carnegie How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's not really about sales. It is about speaking and getting to know people. You know, it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People, not for any bad reason. It is absolutely what it says on the tin. It's actually quite an easy read as well. I don't know if you've read it, but written in 1930 something, was it, Charmaine? Something like that, 1937.
Yeah, something like that.
Of time, because it is not prescriptive. It is just about being interested in people, being interested in what they are doing. My biggest customer said to me once, "You've never sold me anything, Steve." Yeah, and they were taking 200K a month, and all I did was what I did was made it easy for them to buy from me. I made sure that all the sales channels were available. So if they wanted to go to a shop, the shop was ready for them with a discount. If they wanted to buy from a reseller, the resellers were already set up with discount codes and with the right pricing. If they wanted something special, they could just do it. I didn't need to sell them anything. I just needed to sell them availability in a risk-free way. There are some other things. Negotiation techniques are important. And there are some good books out there. I can't remember them from the moment. But things like, I actually wrote a little. I'll send it to Charmaine and she can circulate it for you.
That'd be brilliant, yeah.
It's only about 4 pages of stuff. But remembering your value, actually, you know, you're not there talking to a customer because it's fun. They do expect you to offer value, and they do expect to pay properly for your services. So I find a lot of people undervalue themselves. You know, they say, well, it's just me, I'll do the work. But actually they should treat themselves as though themselves were an employee, take the right amount of money for the job that they're doing, but as the business, they need to make a profit, a margin on top of that. That gets forgotten. And you realize people are working very hard, doing a good job, but overlooking the fact that they need to make 30% margin for the company on top of what they've charged for their own skill and time. So value yourself, I would say, you know, understand the value that you have or your product, and stand up for it. Then, you know, be proud of it is what I'm going to say. Be bold about asserting your value and its right place. The negotiating techniques are useful, and there are also some useful things about personal styles. So, you know, about people color charts, or sometimes about mood charts or something. There are a number of those. If you go to a finance director who is driven by numbers, give him numbers. If you're going to an artistic or creative house, have the numbers, but talk about the concepts, talk about what they're going to gain by it. So actually take some time to understand the person that you're engaging with and what is motivating them. Understand where they are. You know, are they a thrusting young executive heading for the moon, or are they an old hand who's now winding the company down and wants to get out? They will have a different objective. They will have, know as much as you can about the individual that you're dealing with, and their position and their interests and their circumstances. And, you know, the boss's secretary, MD's secretary or MD's assistant always will do that if you approach them in the right frame of mind. If you approach them to say, look, I'm going to see so-and-so on Wednesday, and I want to make this presentation right. I don't want to make any embarrassing mistakes. Is there anything I should know? You know, absolutely, something I should avoid. And they will appreciate you giving them your trust as well. The gatekeepers are often the most helpful people on the planet. It's a really strange thing. They're gatekeepers because they know a lot. That's why they are gatekeepers. So I don't know whether I can say anything else about that. Is that a good enough answer? Is that what you were sort of...
Yeah, it's really good. And it echoes experience, really, because I think some of the best customers we've got have actually almost established a friendship with them.
Precisely. Precisely that, yes. So if you look at my website, you will see one of my objectives is that you become, you start off as a supplier, then you become a key supplier, and then you become eventually a trusted advisor. So when they ring you up and say, Kevin, I haven't got a project yet, what do you think about this? So they're talking to you about a future project before there's a budget. They're talking to you about a future project before they know what they want to buy. But they value your opinion, they value your judgment, they trust you. If you can achieve that, then the sales bit is easy. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But if you're making friends with your clients, then you're a long way down that road anyway, and that is the ideal situation. It doesn't fix every single issue, of course. Things go
definitely
wrong.
not. No,
nothing can.
Yeah. But there's
one of my big bugbears is having a problem is the biggest opportunity you have to make a great customer. Yeah, everybody has problems, but not everybody fixes them well. If you stick your hand up and say, "Ah, oh, gee, that's not right, is it?" and you get involved as quickly as you can and as hard as you can, and you fix it, even if you have to swallow your pride sometimes, and even sometimes swallow that you're not going to get paid the full value of the invoice, but that customer goes away thinking, "Gee, they did the right thing for me," you know. Yeah. And they will come back because they know that if it's problematic, it gets resolved. So that bit of your reputation is so valuable if you can enhance it. So having a big problem is not necessarily a disaster. It can be the opportunity to shine.
Oh, that's brilliant. Insightful. Yeah, it's great. Thanks.
Good. Thank you.
That's a good point, Steve, because one of my mottos is sell them what they want and give them what they need.
Yeah.
So the first initial sale might not be the big one that you want, but you've caught them because you've solved their problem. Yeah. And you've made them feel better or taken away an element of pain or something. Yeah. So they will automatically trust you, and then it's easier then to go back in and upsell them to, you know. Prime example is people say to me, you know, I've been in business nearly 20 years, and people say, in the last sort of 10 years, it took me a while to catch on. People don't want to buy a marketing strategy.
No.
You know, what they want is sales through the door.
They want customers, yeah.
Yeah, they want customers. So if I say to them, if I go to a networking meeting and stand up and give my 60 seconds and say, I'll do your marketing strategy, I've lost all the room. Like literally, like within seconds, they've all got their heads back in their code sausages. But if I say I can get you clients in 14 days, or I can get you clients in 7 days, half the room want to speak to me. They don't know that I'm going to go in and deliver marketing tactics. They just want me to say, like, just get the clients for them, and show them the easiest way to do it. So always sell them what they want and give them what they need will always win you bigger fish and win you bigger contracts in the long run. Because the other thing that Steve said, which struck a chord, was, and I'm surprised David didn't say anything, because they use this a lot in NLP. If you listen to people, they will communicate to you in their style. So I'm a visual person, so I will use language that says, I need to see that. Yes, I can visualize that. You start hitting me with numbers and you've lost me. But if you came back and said, well, actually, you know, Shemaine, can you just visualize yourself doing that? Or how would you feel if that, you know, how do you feel if you're using that? How do you feel, you know, if I can make your skin look great, how would you feel about that? I'd be like, oh, you know. But if you say, well, you know, if you start talking numbers, I'm gone. And so
there are some things that turn me off instantly, but if you are dealing with somebody who's intelligent, they will help you see past that first bit. But understanding, excuse me, talking too much, understanding the personality type that you're dealing with. Are you dealing with an introvert and a narcissist? Are you dealing with somebody who's, you know, but it's important, you know, you have to know. Because Shemaine's gone off on one now. She's had it.
You said an introvert and a narcissist, and somebody we know very well just popped into my head. Sorry.
I can't imagine who you mean, but yeah, much. But they are very different from somebody who's an extrovert, somebody who's a bold, striding. Extroverts are often close to psychopaths as well, you know. Some of those demanding, table slamming bosses that we've all met, bang the door and make a big dramatic entrance. Well, I'm not impressed by them, frankly, and you know, they leave me cold too. But nonetheless, they need, anybody in NLP will know, they need their needs attended to just like everybody else. And beware, just beware that quiet geeky techie in the corner, because they might be the boss's key advisor. So you be sure they just might be. So when all is said and it's quiet, they say, so what do you think, Fred? Well, I didn't like him, or she's a puff of wind and she's worth nothing. Actually, I thought they had a good idea. So that quiet individual who fetched the coffee or didn't say much at lunch, they can often be the key influencer. They can often be, and they're often the gatekeeper too. So making them comfortable with you is quite a key activity. So this whole thing about understanding what makes them tick, you know, what makes them what they are. And of course, the influences that are in their life, you know, because sometimes people come in and they're cross about something, and there's always a reason for that unexplained behavior. NLP will tell you that, you know, when you start to look, there's something in their life which is driving that strange behavior. You might not know it, and you might struggle to find out what it is, but knowing that it's there is quite an important thing. So you just modify your own behavior. What is it in NLP, in the matching thing? Is that what they say? Is in NLP you
start matching them.
The mood and the color of your correspondent.
Yeah, so if they sit forward, you sit forward. If they lean back, you lean back, and it's like it's a psychological tactic. It's used a lot in the military. That came from the military, and they use it a lot in negotiation and interrogation. To build trust and rapport and make the other one feel. It starts to make the other person feel comfortable, and you can use that in communication with copywriting if you just listen to the style that they talk, that the language that they use, you just talk back to them in that language, because whether you're a small organization or a large organization, there is a communication style, and it's quite easy to pick up on it. You just have to step back for 2 minutes and look at the words that people are using or the images that they're using.
You don't mean buy my stuff, do you?
Or even the colors, like, you know, like I used to work for Coca-Cola. Red is a very dynamic, fast action, you know, so like most of the people they employed were fast action, dynamic people. So in a sales meeting, it was fast and dynamic, you know, it wasn't evergreen and brown and let's just take our time and do this. It's like, no, I need it now. So even the corporate colors of a company can give insight into the leadership that is happening and where you need to position your message and stuff like that.
It's not even a problem if companies and organizations are facing downsizing, for instance, because they may need you more in a tight situation than ever they do in a growth situation. You know, you might be more helpful to them when they're having to tighten the belts and button down the hatches, so to speak, than they do when they're growing, you know. So you shouldn't be put off by the circumstances and the mood. It's just for you to read it properly and to make the best effort you can.
The NHS is a brilliant example of that, because everything in the NHS is blue. It's a very cold blue. So you know that is going to be a slow process. There's going to be a lot of people in it. So you need to understand who's got the authority, what the need is, what the time is, you know, because they might be talking to you about something now which doesn't need delivering until 2022. But they know that the budget's going to be there. So actually what you just need off them is a purchase order. Job done, but it's not. You're not going to go in and unless you've got PPE equipment. You're not.
Yeah, and even that is yeah.
Even that, because even that is the problem, is getting the authority and the credit card to pay for the stuff, because the stuff might be sitting at the front door, but nobody actually knows who's got the authority to sign the order. So stuff, even subtle things like that, can give the game away in the sales process. Definitely.
Know your client, know your client's organization, know them. Always more information. There is no such thing as too much information. There's only such a thing as, and for Andrew as well, actually understanding and knowing what people are working on and looking at will give you a little way marker to when might be a good moment to approach them. You know, it's like driving. Everything you need to know is painted on the road in front of you. Everything, the speed limit, the road type, you know, any hazards, it's all there. But learning to read it is much more, it's a skill. It is just a skill, and it can be learned, and you can make very, very good predictions if you put all the information together and settle down and just think about it, and use a mentor to help you, use a buddy to help you just think about what it is that you're seeing and what it means. I think I'm exhausted now. My voice is
does anybody else have any final questions for Mr. Jones before
I fall off my chair? There you go.
Yeah, you need some more coffee. There wasn't. See, if we were sitting in front of him, you'd just go up to the counter and keep buying him more coffee.
Yes, I've drank water.
Just the one. Where did you get your shirt, Steve?
This one, the San Francisco. It's a San Francisco Giants shirt. And that was why the San Francisco background was there. Because
sounds a fiend.
The shirt came from San Francisco. I promised Shemaine I'd put on a shirt with a collar.
He did. He said I might even put a shirt. He said I'm going to put a shirt with a collar on. And he's just like, I don't think I've ever seen you wear anything so colourful, Mr. Jones.
No, I do. I have a lot of them, but there's a time and a place.
Oh my God, there's an image in my head. See, there's an image in my head. He's like, thanks for that.
Well, I remember buying this.
Yeah, thank you ever so much.
It's a pleasure.
And yeah, so everybody start using the BANT structure. And yes, the
anybody
recording.
Wants to talk to Shemaine, she's got my contact. Happy to talk to anybody anytime. I'll send Shemaine this little leaflet thing that I've got. And I'm happy for you to just distribute that on email, Shemaine. It's in Word. So,
cool. I'll send
excellent. Definitely
everybody who's registered this evening. I'll send the recording out along with Steve's details and the leaflet that he sends as well. And then the element of this will go on to YouTube as well. So yes, thank you ever so much, and thank you for sharing your I nearly said Sunday evening with us. Oh my good God. Thank you for sharing your Tuesday evening with us. I'm off to bed because I need some sleep. But yes, thank you ever so much and have a lovely evening. Thanks everyone.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Steve. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.